Good morning.
Good morning, Deborah, LeeAnn.
And let's introduce this topic. We're still under the module or the pillar of the School of Light Collective that is truth teller, this archetype that we're diving into for this month. And I love that we started kicking it off in the Gene Key leadership, which is definitely a portion of truth telling. And it was in the key, also the pulse of leadership last week. So this week, where we're gonna go is the programming partner of leadership is the gift of anticipation. The shadow is fantasy, and the citic state is emanation. And I know that we need to reference that this is from the Gene Keys by Richard Rudd. But we will also be tapping into a little human design and on some other places around this. So I've done so much studying on this gene key because it feels so, on one hand, very reflective of my life. I have spent a lot of time planning. He talks about planning as being the worst thing you can do because, I mean, we need to plan, right? And I've always been a planner, but how then I'm deeply disappointed because I have expectations. I don't plan with that whole Buddhist concept of, non-attachment. So anyway, I want to play with that.
Okay.
Of anticipation. And we are in the pulse this week of mindfulness. So I feel like they are dancing together. And I am looking at how does this all weave together. So we're going to just see where this conversation takes us and enjoy the ride because I'm not gonna have expectations because that messes things up.
Yeah, I think that's probably one of the biggest things that we do. I was having a conversation yesterday. Sometimes we get into the fantasy and it's like grounding us back into ourselves and we don't know exactly where it's going to go, but do we have to know where it's going to go?
Well, and so this is fascinating to me because if you come as a leader, very often we want leaders that are visionary, that are like, and we want to follow them if we believe that they are going to take us to someplace better. The difference, and I think this is fascinating, the genius is in the anticipation, which actually takes action towards that. Whereas the fantasy is the non-genius because you can dream and talk about visions all day long. Yeah, but it stays up here. It doesn't get manifested on the real whatever real is 3D plane.
Right. Well, when you are a leader, you're pruning back your inner life and you're really getting clear about what it is that you're wanting to create. Right. Yes. So it's that creative force.
And what's fascinating is I believe visionary leaders do this, whether they realize they're doing it or knowingly do it, is they are tapped into the field. Richard calls it the morphogenetic field, which has no time, and which is how, like somebody like Mozart, he could hear the music in his head and then create that symphony. And he grew up in a family with a father who passed on his intense wisdom and knowledge and love of music. At the time, it was classical music. And that's where he came into this world with that knowledge. So I believe that leaders, we always think of them as being so innovative. Very often they are tapped into something of what is required from us in the future. What wisdom can we take from our predecessors? And then how do we take action now?
Yeah.
So
it's weaving all.
It is, which is why I love that it's in this pulse right now, that we're having this conversation in the pulse of mindfulness, because it is that contemplative space that we need to make space for. We need to create some time to drop in and listen, and get out of what we think is the right thing.
Right.
But what is being asked of us? What is the emerging future calling us to become, to be what we need to be in those times?
I've had a lot of conversations with myself and with others about the fact that having those conversations with your future self, whether it's 3 months down the road or a year down the road, and what would she do to be her now? We've got to make choices that reflect that person, that beingness, that emanation, that avatar. So I wouldn't say make sacrifices, but pruning the things that no longer serve us, and getting clear about the steps that we want to take to get to doing what we want to create. And so that's like the impetus of this creative fire as a leader.
Yeah. And I feel like a lot of times wise people keep all of that information in, whereas this truth teller pillar is asking us to put it out there. And that is scary, because the culture tends to not like somebody who's speaking out of turn, who sees things differently, who's going in a direction that's not part of where all the lemmings are going off the cliff over here. They're like, no, this is what we need to do. So how do we find that courage and continue moving in the direction of what we know is to be the right direction? We have that. We can feel the anticipation. We were just talking about aging, not just gracefully, but powerfully, having the energy in 10, 20 years to do what we want to do, to live the lives that we want to live. And we don't know where we're going to be or 10 and 20 years, but I know that I want this body to be strong. So I want the muscles. I want the strong bones. You know what I mean? I want the mental acuity to continue doing what I'm here to do. And so I'm kind of putting myself into that future self going, okay, what do I need now? And hopefully that'll be the impetus to change my exercise habits. Thank you, Susanne, for your help on that. So how do we want to play with this? Because as a leader, this truth teller to me feels a little scary to speak in terms of where we think we need to be going, especially if it's different from what the rest of the world is wanting us to do.
Well, definitely when we are in our creative impetus and it is different. What do we envision for our future? If we continually looking at our past or even the present, it tells a very different story. But as a leader, you're here to show a different way of being, a different way of moving in the world, a different expression. And that's why I hesitate to say, oh yeah, doomsday, whatever. Yeah, no, we are the future and we get to choose what that looks like. And so I'm not giving my power away to nobody. I'm here on purpose. And that's, I think, part of the leadership is taking ownership of our piece of the puzzle.
So bring in human design a little bit, because where did you say imagination was the name of this?
Okay. Channel? And I am taking this from the Encyclopedia of Quantum Human Design with Karen Curry Parker. It's in the biology is in the adrenal glands, and we find this in the root, actually, the root going up to the emotional center. And this is your creative fire, your creative impetus. It's the divine timing center, is how she.
That feels so true to me. Okay.
I mean, when you think about traditional human design, it's all in fantasy, and the astrology sign is Aquarian. I mean, we are creating a new age right now. And so it is going to be much more watery, much more, or airy, much more in the head, but it's about envisioning. And some of the contemplations that she has is, do you own your creative power? Are you owning it? And, can you deepen in self-honoring that creative power, which is powerful, right? Like,
and then how do you actually sorry, I just thought of something. How do you take action to on that creative power? I feel like this is what fantasy is to me. It's thinking about what we want to create,
right,
versus the leader takes that and moves forward.
What do you do to express your creative power?
Okay, that's where okay, so it's the action oriented.
Yeah. And what do you do to hold on to your dreams and your vision? Rather than just like that's like somebody who has a goal and they choose the thing, and then on a whim it changes direction, right? But if there's a bigger goal involved there, and they keep kind of hardwiring to the bigger goal and say, does this honor me getting there each time, when you create something?
See that, and that's where I get stuck, is I feel like if I'm in the creation mode and I'm in the perfect, pure flow of the channel of inspired creativity flowing through me, I'm tapping into what is being asked for now,
right,
or what is being called forth now. And I need to believe that I'm actually using it in service to my future self as well. So, I mean, I'm like, I'm torn with the time, I guess, because you are tapped into all of it right at the same time, that timelessness.
Well, right. And I think we talked about this, we bounce between the past, the future, and now. And I was even laughing yesterday. I'm like, oh, I created something 4 years ago that would be very beneficial for me now.
I know. I laugh about that. I'm like, am I a teacher to myself?
Yes.
That stuff that I channeled 7 years ago, and I find it and I read it again, and I'm like,
oh, thanks.
Yeah, who knew? So I do like the fact that our future self, or our wise woman self, or whoever that additional piece that can see all times at the same time, to open to receiving that. I guess that's where he's talking about the morphogenetic field. We call it, in the integral space, we call it the unified field, or the infinite intelligence, right? We're dropping into, there's a bigger wisdom out there, and we allow ourselves to be a channel or a receptor, and then being the truth teller, transmitter of it. So it's not just allowing it all to drop in and fill us, but it's like, then we emanate it, then we are it in the world.
And tying into that, from that creative storytelling that you have, the creative impetus, this week is all about how to retell the story. And so in human design, it's related to the throat connected to the heart again. And that is, some contemplations would be, what personal narratives are you telling that might be keeping you stuck, or feeling like a victim, or feeling unlovable? What's kicking you, right? And how can you rewrite those stories? And what listening practices do you have? And what can you do to be a better listener and can gauge with the right time to share in a powerful way? So again, it's also about divine timing too.
Yeah.
And that's like an activation center. That's your authenticity. That's your vitality center.
So there's, I'm thinking in terms of contemplation, which is in between mindfulness and meditation. It's actually a blend of both. And I always think of contemplation as being more active, which is why I'm liking that we're combining this key, which is a key portal of the truth teller archetype, with the current pulse in the Aquarian sign, or sorry, in the horoscope, or the, what do you call it, the sun sign of Leo, which is courage.
Mm-hmm.
It is, unapologetically taking your space as the king of the jungle. I mean, that's just the way it is. And I thought, wow, I want to dance with that versus this constant, I wouldn't say constant, but very often I toggle between I want to do this, I want to be this in the world, and oh, that's too much. I'll just go sit in the corner and be quiet. You know what I mean? So I'm like, I don't know. Do you know what I mean? It's like the hide and seek, you know?
It's that turtle mentality.
Yeah, that. So somebody's going to make a meme out of that someday, So how do you suggest? I was thinking about somatic ways to drop into the morphogenetic field to listen and learn and be mindful and receive you used to call them marching orders, right? Those inspired actions of how do we lead today going into the emerging future that we're rapidly attracting to us.
Somatic practices. Well, obviously one is feeling into our hearts and listening to our breath. And you always drop down into our bellies. And this key is down in the root, right? The anticipation, that's the, below the cauldron, it's the root. It's a foundation.
And it's interesting because he talks about this being the start codon. I mean, it is the one that informs us of the action that each cell is supposed to take. It's not about creating a specific amino acid. It's about telling our cells to create the amino. So it's actually the very beginning of taking action.
Yeah, he says this. This is a quote from Richard. This method of information relays means that the body can essentially operate like a quantum biocomputer, organizing multiple levels of information in response to stimulus from the inner and outer environment.
Right. Which is why, if we're really paying attention, certain places on the planet, we get more information based on what's going on there and how open we are to receiving it. Some people say they feel it more in, Sedona or in, Scotland and Ireland and some of those Celtic power places. And I think, the fact that you moved to Massachusetts, I mean, I think that there's something that is allowing you to tap into more of who you are here to be. And I keep feeling that call to, where am I supposed to go? But for some reason, St. Louis is where I'm grounded, and I know there's a lot of healing that needs to be done here too.
Right.
So anyway, I'm laughing about I know I feel differently at our little river cabin than I do here. So there's something about being in different places where we can like our energy transmitter is more available to receive.
So yeah, feel that in your body where you go and who you come into contact with. That's part of the somatic training that you can partake in. Understanding more about yourself is how your body responds to being in the area. Does it light you up?
Yeah.
Or is it like heavy?
And does it relax you? I mean, like, do you feel like you can soften and open and receive, or do you need to, do you clench up?
Yeah.
So that for me is a very good awareness of where am I? Oh, one of the things I've been really practicing with, because I've been having a lot of problems with my neck and headaches again from a previous injury, is can I, and I put my hands literally under my jawbone, lengthen my neck? Can I make this longer? Which allows there to be so much more energy through there. And so
most of the time we're all like this reading.
we are on our phones, on the computer. So can I allow this to drop down and these to go up in a way that I am, my brain stem is more uncrimped, and so all of that energy can flow. So I've been really playing with that. Oh, that feels so good, you know. So just that's the one thing that I know. Our spine, and that's a big part of our prosperity and our work in the world, is having a flexible spine. So really noticing what your body needs to do to relax when you can open into that, which allows for that amazing, the downloads that he talks about. You can get downloads that are unbelievable.
Yeah.
By dropping in. So any closing thoughts, or do you have a card or something that you think would pull all of this diverse conversation we've had into some kind of closure?
Just feeling into it. This is when you know that it's not staged. This is just it's raw. I haven't pulled from this deck in a long time, but this is what's calling me, is the Colette Baron Reid.
I love that. I have that book. Yeah, nice.
You know, as a leader, we pick from all different resources, right? So it's not just one way. And yeah, it's not just one way.
And we don't need to know it all before we take a step. No.
We don't need to know it all. But as we move about the cabin with talking about leadership and talking about this way of retelling our story and moving into anticipation without attachment to it, and mindfulness of how we show up. What are you feeling? Middle, top, bottom?
Yeah, I'm thinking middle.
Yeah. Oh, unexpected visitors. So feel into that. Maybe there may be some unexpected visitors coming to see you that help you shine your light a little bit stronger. That kind of feels like Alice in Wonderland to me a little bit.
I don't know. For me, it's like remember in the days when we had the Airbnb in the house and the people that would show up, where we were always so taken aback by how perfect they were for the moment. But there's also, can we be open to unexpected visitors of symbols, of angelic realms, of, and we were just talking about this, ancestral wisdom downloads. Yeah, I mean, it could be a physical person,
Right. And it could be signs. So if you expect, because we talked about anticipation, you expect the unexpected, you'll be prepared for miracles. That's what this
Oh,
symbolizes.
that I like. What a perfect way to close for that. That is awesome. Read that again.
If you expect the unexpected, you'll be prepared for miracles.
Amen.
So without attachment, they happen.
Absolutely.
Better than you anticipated.
Oh, I love that. And we will see you next time. As always, thanks for listening and being with us on this wild and woolly journey in life.